Welcome back to the Up Your Smile Game podcast. Today we're joined by dental legend Dr. Laila Hishaw, a board certified pediatric dentist, founder, author, public speaker, thought leader, as well as practice owner and mother of three. It's so good to have you here. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited. I'm so excited about all the things you're putting out there just to help the culture, to help just up and coming dentists, and all of us here in the profession. Thank you so much for inviting me onto the podcast.
You are the example. I'm just following your footprints. It's great to just be in conversation with you. We can't ignore that this is a momentous time for the culture, for the
Mhm.
country, and for society. And so it's just important for us to continue to have these conversations and
Right.
support each other. So, I mean, you're such an inspiration, especially for me as a dentist and a woman of color. Your career has been truly magnificent. You've not only diversified your platforms in the profession, but you've answered the call to increase the number of dentists from underrepresented backgrounds. Dr. Hishaw, if you could just take us down the path and progression of your career, starting with, what inspired you to pursue dentistry and specifically pedodontics.
Oh, sure. Well, thank you so much. It's funny now that I'm in my fifth decade of life that I reflect on things a little differently now. And I remember just kind of growing up, I always really cared about wanting to help others. But at the same time, although I was born overseas in Iran. My father was a dentist, but early in my life, my mother being a black woman from Kansas City, Missouri, um, we had to leave the country during the revolution. So I was about 5, almost 6 years old when we left Iran. And I was raised in Kansas City by my mother and my black grandmother. And seeing my mom really struggle being a single parent, she was a teacher, but she also worked part time. And it was always instilled in me. She always just said, you have to be able to take care of yourself and not rely on any man. And so, with that, it was just a work ethic that was put in me. It was also, you're going to be a doctor one day. It's just basically, she was telling me I need to be a doctor, right? And she's intentions all well and good because she just, as a mother, now I know we want more and better for our children. But that seed that she planted for me to keep striving and doing more almost stretched me to the point where I was doing too much and felt overwhelmed. But I knew I had to do that. So I was planning all through undergraduate school to go to medical school. But deep down inside, I just knew I really didn't want to do it. But I was all the way up into the MCAT. And then I finally made the decision after I graduated from college to go visit my dad in Iran. And again, I had not been there since I was born. And I finally got to see him working as a dentist, and he was a prosthodontist. And he also taught. He loved his students. He loved teaching, and I think that's where I get that from as well. And a light went off, and I said, dentistry. I mean, I can help others. I loved how he was creating these smiles, especially as a prosthodontist. And so that's what I decided to do. I came back. I was like, okay, mom will be happy that I'm going to be a doctor, but I'm fulfilled that I'm doing something that is right for me. And so I did. After a couple years, I went to University of Missouri, Kansas City. Go Chiefs!
Yeah, my
and
dad
then
is from Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh,
So,
I would love to chat
yeah.
with him. We got to talk about our Gates barbecue.
Yeah, but Gates barbecue sauce. We
You
got that.
know, right?
Yeah, we used to get it shipped to our house. So,
Oh, we
um,
still
I,
do. Yeah, my
yeah,
in-laws are there, and every time we you can even ask them now to airport wrap it for travel, and it's all done. So it's very easy.
yeah.
So we always have some in the freezer.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, after dental school, I knew early on in dental school, once we started rotations, that I love pediatric dentistry. I'm also sister. I have two younger sisters, so I'm 9 and 10 years older than them. So I was kind of the built-in babysitter, if you will. And again, that whole taking care of everyone, getting them to all their activities, and being there while my mom was working late shifts. Um, just having my sisters there showed me how much I loved caring for kids. And so you have to love children before you go into pediatric dentistry. All too many times, as I'm mentoring students, it's like, what's the best specialty? Which one makes the most money? I said, no, you cannot decide to choose a specialty based on, the income you're going to get. If you will fail, because in pediatric dentistry, there's a lot of crying, and that's just brushing teeth. There's a lot of crying, right?
Yeah.
But yes, fast forward. My husband, he was also from Kansas City, and he was doing a dual program in neurology and psychiatry here at the University of Arizona in Tucson. And so after my residency, I moved here. And at the time, I don't know if you know, Dr. White, I was the first female pediatric dentist owner in Tucson. And
I
this
didn't
was
know that.
in
Wow.
2002. So, in
Okay.
all the years, there had not been a female pediatric dentist who had
Wow.
a practice. So, I will say, because of that, the practice grew very, very fast, like at the point where I was needing an associate within my first year. And from that, associates, then I had one who bought in, and then we grew it to a second location. And then in 2013, bought a third location. Um, but now, kind of scaling back a bit, we've sold one. Now my kids I only have two more left before they graduate out of high school in 2026. And so kind of slowing things down a bit, but it's really because of this passion I have that birthed the nonprofit Diversity in Dentistry Mentorships that I'm sure we'll speak about. But that's how we've got to today.
Wow. Yes. I mean, you talked about so many things. Number one, I appreciate you explaining that, especially pedodontics, pediatric dentistry really is a calling. And
Yes.
I listen to so many colleagues, and they've always had that kind of, nurturing spirit, often with family, friends, and then just, being able to their interpersonal skills with children and being relatable and friendly, and then also being able to convey needs and educate parents on that level is also really important. Your own diverse background, with your father being
Right.
Persian, that experience as a child, the trauma.
It was
Yeah, please talk
challenging. And
about
I
that.
think now looking back, I understand a lot of why I am or why I do the things I do and who I am. At the time, I mentioned the revolution in 1979. Um, that's what's the Iranian hostage crises. So a lot of Americans in Iran were held against their will. And that was the time my mom and I came back, and I was still not quite understanding, but I just remember just kind of one day walking to school, and I saw all these yellow ribbons tied around the trees, and I just didn't understand. And I asked my mom what was going on, and she explained to me that this was the community holding space and wishfully hoping that for the safe return of those hostages in Iran. And then it dawned on me that Iran, that's where I was born. That was where my father is from, and he had to stay. A lot of families separated, unfortunately, during that time. And so then I see in the media and in the news and all the protests, and it, no matter how young you are, that meant that there was a lot of fear, there was a lot of hatred. And so I interpreted that I couldn't be safe revealing who I was. So when my mom remarried, I took my stepfather's name. I didn't want anyone to ask what kind of name is Baharlu. But then on the other hand, also seeing my family and the community I was being brought up in, and the Black community and the struggles, so many stories shared by my grandmother, and see the discrimination, and hearing my mom continually say, when I started new school, make sure you sit in the front, make sure you do all the extra credit, make sure you give 110%. So I knew I always had to get more. But at the same time, it's just, I wanted to hide my Persian side. And then because of my mix, I didn't, maybe it wasn't reflected in my skin color as much that I was Black, but definitely in the texture of my hair. So I did try to hide myself there. And I think when I did that, I realized that I just never felt like I truly belonged. And that over the years and the decades has caused me to I guess, just try to people please, be whoever anyone needed me to be. And I don't know if this resonates with any of your listeners, but when you do that, you give so much of yourself to everyone else that you kind of lose your voice, even. And so um, it is amazing. I always say that the nonprofit and also a life, medical crises in my life really changed the trajectory of my life, is because I was really losing my voice. I was not even being a great leader. I wasn't showing up the way I needed to be. And then is when I got sick, that I had some time off, some time to reflect, and got some life coaching. And I will say, yes, everyone needs a coach, life or business coach, or a combination of the two. And that's when I found my voice. That's when I started speaking out. When I learning of the lack of racial and ethnic diversity in our dental workforce, that's when I knew I needed to be a voice for others, and the nonprofit was born.
It's so brilliant that you were able to create something beautiful out of this mosaic of experiences
Mhm.
that could have stunted you. And I think that it was growth. We all
Right. Yes.
I had similar revelations that I was making myself small to appeal to society, even to
Mm.
fulfill my family's wishes, also taking advantage of opportunities that weren't available to my grandparents, even to my parents. And I think
Right.
that there's so many ways that people may play small, but specifically Black women, and
Yes.
in this society, you're up against so many different obstacles. And for you to actually be able to step back, I'm so sorry that you had to go through the challenge of illness, but that it's great that you're the third, getting that objective. What did they say? The third party objective insight, so that you
Yes.
could,
Yes.
strengthen yourself, the coaching, and bring something out of that not only helps you but then gives back to help the community. That's amazing. I had no
Oh,
idea. I didn't know about, so thank you for sharing that.
thank you
Yeah.
for reflecting that back. I never think about it in that whole picture, but it is true. And yes, you're right. It is hard, especially Black women having to play small. And then no matter, how much we do, is sometimes it just seems like not seen as worthy enough. And
Yeah.
I would hope for anyone watching and listening to really know that we are enough, more than
Yes,
enough, more than
more than
enough.
enough, more than qualified, more
Yes.
than enough.
Set some
Important.
boundaries, boundaries, boundaries,
Yes,
boundaries.
yes, and allowing yourself to, to discover, which is just a part of life, especially adolescence and young adulthood, to discover
Mhm.
your authentic self, and then figure out where your strengths are, or strengthen those weaknesses, develop those skills, and just be a better person. It's like it's an unraveling, and then you realize, wait, I only have a certain amount of time, so I got to figure out who I am, and then
Yeah.
so you
And then
can
I was,
take care of yourself, your family, your patients. Wow, I mean,
mhm.
and you're definitely in the right profession. Pediatric dentistry. There's so, dental disease is so prevalent. It's the number one disease of childhood. In terms of your population in Tucson, I had no idea there were so, of course you got this metropolis, but makes
Yes.
sense. They're underrepresented. It's great that your practice was able to serve the needs. What is the biggest hurdle in terms of closing these racial disparities, with
Mhm.
between children of color with high risk of decay? In terms of your work, do you feel like there are viable solutions, and where do you see resistance?
Right. Well, the first thing is we need to increase the diversity of the dental workforce. I mean, data shows us that we're underrepresented, and that is defined as groups from African American, Hispanic, Native Americans, Alaska Natives. And yet the data shows us that we're more likely, or these groups are more likely to serve in these communities. So when we're speaking about access to care, we need to get providers, caregivers to be in those communities. And my organization, and there are many others too, and our other organizations are, our umbrella organizations of there's the National Dental Association, a Hispanic Dental Association, and Society of American Indian Dentists. ADIA also has a mentorship program. The American Dental Association is also looking to develop some mentorship. So and then of course the grassroots organizations like ours are also present as well to try to increase the applicant pool of students from diverse backgrounds. That's the key. I always say it's not about just selecting, is really about increasing the pool. And the way to do that is to encourage them to explore the oral
Mhm.
health profession. And because one of the things I ask at our youth summits, raise your hand if you've seen a dentist that looks like you. And out of 50, I get about 2 to 3 hands that go up. And so that's what needs to change.
Yes.
But there are, yeah, there, as far as the care, I think education is so important in all communities, to explaining the oral health and overall health, how it's correlated, um, and then diet. Culturally, the diet is very distinct in different communities, and so if we can get to parents early and explain about the decay process and how diet plays such a huge role, and of course early childhood caries with the putting the child to bed with a bottle and explaining the detrimental effects of that is all education. So we just need to get them and get the word out that they need to bring in their child by their first birthday. And one of our partners who should and are, but more need to help us, are our pediatricians. So when I first started, I was going to, introduce myself to all the pediatric practices around town, doing a lunch and learn, explaining what was going on. I think it would be great for dental schools to allow their dental students to do some broad education that way, because still to this day, I'm getting parents bringing in their kiddos at age 3 and say, "Oh, well, my dentist said that they don't see them till age 3." I said, "Well, no, they don't want to see them until 3, but it is the recommendation of the American Academy of Pediatric Dentistry, the ADA, to see them by their first birthday." But yeah, we've talked a little bit about education. We talked about our workforce, and then we got to talk about biases. And if we don't address that, and and this is also what part of what I'm trying to do for our colleagues, is to talk about unconscious biases in the in dentistry. We all have biases. The problem is when we're not aware of it. And if we're making us, and bias is basically an assumption, and if we have a dental provider who's making an assumption about a patient based on their race or ethnicity, then that's where we're going to get disparities in care. So, yes, I definitely
Yeah.
have that. I have, of course, talk about that. And I think we just need to be comfortable with discussing that more amongst our colleagues.
Yeah, certainly. That it's at the provider level. Cultural
Hmm.
competence is so
Yes.
important, and it's not required for
Yeah.
accreditation by the dental schools. So you've got probably maybe 20% of the schools, or only 60 dental schools or so. So you only have
Hmm.
a few students that are actually learning it as part of their curriculum. I mean, you do
Yeah.
so much with education. I can appreciate your book. Let's talk about that, cavity free
Oh,
kids.
yes. I forgot to bring it over.
You have so many things, Dr.
You can find it
Hishaw.
on Amazon.
Yeah, the Cavity Free Kids on Amazon. We'll have links to Dr.
Yes.
Hishaw's
And then get
platforms.
your Bright White's toothpaste too. We're going to
Yes,
have to
while
do
you're on
a little
Amazon,
collaboration.
thank you. Yes, the toothpaste is selling really well. Everybody loves it, and
Excited.
it's really one of our our core values is education.
Hmm.
Similar education, inclusion, and community, and that's what it's
Right.
about. It's not just a product to help you reach your smile goals, but it's advancing the conversation about oral health, the importance of
Hmm.
oral health, why we brush our teeth, when we brush our teeth, and that talks
Hmm.
about diet and nutrition. One thing I
Yes.
do appreciate with dentistry is it's so blatantly attached to your health, right?
Yes. Yes.
Your smile, the oral microbiome, what's in your mouth based on what you've eaten, how you feel, your medications. It only
Hmm.
makes sense that it's connected to your health. And
Yes.
yes, especially at that pediatric level, my son's pediatrician. She's, if anything, she's like, "Oh my goodness, you're teaching me." And I'm like
Good, good.
thinking, "Oh,
Yeah.
you're kidding me."
Talked
Yeah.
about that breakdown in medical schools. They need to have some oral health curriculum
Yes.
embedded in their programming. Hmm.
Yeah, it's just the systemic links are there, all the research is there, but I've been doing my own little research on why oral care and dental health is so separate, and it's really based in a long history that kind
Mm.
of got tied up in the insurance companies, and now it's just, like everything else, these
Hmm.
systems have to be essentially demolished to be rebuilt properly. But we have to
Yeah.
work around that, and we have. So
Yeah.
let's just continue our work.
Great.
Your patients have their challenges. You've reckoned with that. You have, started a nonprofit. You've raised a family. You're very active in the African American
Yes.
community with the Jack and Jill organization.
Yes.
You're in organized dentistry with Delta Dental. What do you feel has been like the highlight of your career so far? What would you
Mm.
say has been that magical moment?
Wow, wow. I should know that, but I was say, in professionally, I will always remember the moment when I saw my first patient in my practice. But throughout, and it's next year will be 25 years in,
Wow.
private practice. Yeah,
Congratulations.
thanks.
That's
I can't
first.
believe it. Yeah, I was class of 2000. Um, so many things, and I've been blessed to say I've had many honors, awards, recognitions over these past 2 decades. But there's something about that feeling of knowing that I have a practice that's mine. The first year out of my residency, I was in a group practice because I was in a new city. I didn't know where to set up, didn't know much about the layout of the land. Um, but it was such a sense of fulfillment, and also just being able to share that with my mother and my grandmother, who I know, I stand on their shoulders, and they've always been my biggest cheerleader. And my grandmother was helping put this decorations in the lobby, and my mom helped with the design. And so it holds a special place in my heart. My grandmother's passed on now, and my mom is suffering from Alzheimer's. So that really just has a real special place in my heart. And also, it was 1 week after I started that practice that I found out I was pregnant with my first kiddo.
Oh, wow.
So it just was such a family event, from the inception to the for seeing my first patient. And it was that just was the springboard to build up the other practices. And being able to have that and being a leader in the community, I was able to give back in so many ways. It's blessed me financially, it's blessed me in developing me as a leader, it's blessed me so that I can bless others. And that's always my mantra. And so I would say that would be one of my most memorable occasions in
Wow, that's
professionally.
I see your smile. It's
Yeah.
the finding out you're pregnant, expecting your first child, being, just enjoying the bliss of finally having your own
Yes.
establishment. And then the circular effect. I mean, your mother raised you essentially as a single mom, and
Hmm.
then for you to have a business to advance Black economic mobility.
Yes.
There's so many things. That's what I feel like as Black women founders, especially in
Hmm.
healthcare, we are doing so much. We're hiring people of color. We're circulating money in our communities. We're advancing healthcare. We're advocates for wellness. We're
Hmm.
educators. Even if you're not lecturing at your local university, all day
Yeah.
long, it's patient
All day long.
education. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
leaders. We're the face of healthcare. We're the face of Black professionals, whether you like it or not. That's what I tell people. Whether you like it or not, when people buy Colgate, they're gonna ask. They think you
They
know
ask
everything
you.
about those
Yeah.
products. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Um,
should also say, practice owner or not, as the dentist and the dental professional, if you're a hygienist as well, you are the leader in the practice, and you are doing all those things you listed as far as education goes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's so few of us. The dental force is small, in general. And then, in terms of it being barely 4% Black, less than 4%
Hmm.
Black, that means
Hmm.
the numbers is probably 7,000 Black dentists. So yes, even in Washington, D.C., I have patients weekly. Oh, you're the first Black dentist I ever met.
My
I'm like,
goodness, yes.
we have Howard University, University of
Right.
Maryland, all these schools around here, but it's just because there are just, we're underrepresented. And I'm
Mhm.
glad that you addressed the funnel. I'm on the alumni executive board with Penn, and they're always saying
Yeah.
they're not enough Black applicants, specifically Black males. I think this
Yes. Yeah.
last class there was one applicants,
Mhm.
and we know that's because we need to inspire students early. And I
Mhm.
appreciate that your program starts at the middle school level, and that's really
Yeah.
important. And to expand the aperture of opportunities coming from
Yeah.
STEM, even non-traditional paths. I wasn't a science major, but
Mhm.
I am grateful for the support that I had venturing into healthcare and specifically dentistry. As the founder of a practice and as a business owner, in terms of the logistics of the business side, I know that
Yeah.
takes a different side of your brain. Can you
Mhm.
talk to the challenges that you
Mhm.
faced?
Yes, yes, there are many challenges. And I think one of the biggest challenge, and this was something more personal, was just I came in with such an imposter syndrome of not thinking that I was smart enough to be a business owner. My mother was not a business owner. I didn't feel like I could run the practice. And so when I started that practice, I actually was partnering with a company that was going to do a management and help us reduce costs for supplies and instruments. But not doing enough research or not believing in myself enough, it was also going to be taking 40% of my profit. And over 7 years. So I won't say the company, but unfortunately, I really felt like I needed that. As I started working, just like anything, you have to get some training, you got to have practice, and just go out on a leap of faith that you will learn and you'll be successful in leading a practice in the business. So finally, after we got out of that, I think the biggest challenges has always been kind of people management, with the human resources. And I really link it to, and not maybe not everyone will agree, but as a female dentist, the what this team will come to you will be a little bit different than how they would approach a male dentist. And they're really, and I think is maybe not so intentional, but there is that affinity bias that you two are a woman, um, or a woman that, they can see that it looks like them as well, and say, oh, we have an attendance policy. We have, when you're allowed to ask off, how many days in advance, because we have patients to take care of. And if someone is gone, then that puts a strain on the rest of the team. But it would be, my kid has a assembly this afternoon. Can I go? And then I was like, there was sadly one of the things I tell working moms is like, you go to those assemblies. I used to, and as much as we say we put family first, no, there are times like, well, I can't cancel 38 patients because I only got a week notice about this assembly, and I didn't go to my kids' honors assembly at times. And I regret that. I regret that, and I share that. I'm shameful about it. But I just want to tell people that are, dentists, to take the time. Your family is your family, and the patients may get upset and it may be inconvenienced, but if it's something that you really need to be at, then you really need to do it. So that has been the biggest challenge, is trying to accommodate everyone's needs and not having the boundaries set to really speak from what is best for the practice, and then also for myself.
I recognize similar challenges in running my practice, especially I feel like as a woman, like you said, affinity bias. You have this, you're dealing with parents and they're like, oh,
Hmm.
we have to reschedule, or, you know, patients looking at
Hmm.
you like even the cost of treatment. You appreciate
Oh
the
yes,
wealth
for sure.
inequality, income disparities, and it's hard because you're a business owner, and then a stereotypical male shrewd businessman may say
Right.
no, or we're not
Mhm.
doing that, or absolutely not, or they wouldn't even
Absolutely.
ask.
They wouldn't approach it.
Um,
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, they wouldn't approach it. Yeah, yeah. So it's so true. It's so hard. It's so hard.
it is hard. It is hard. And then you're in a nurturing position. You're the provider. You're a caregiver. It is hard for me. My personality. I'm passive aggressive. I smile. The more stressed I am, the bigger is my
The bigger
smile.
your smile.
Um, so
Oh
people
shucks.
mistake
Yes.
like that as well. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dr. Hishaw, you've shared so much. I do want to give you a chance to talk about your family. I know that you're a mother of three. You
Oh,
mentioned that you still have two heading to college soon. And then your
yes.
husband being also in healthcare. Could you talk a little bit about your family dynamic,
Yeah.
and how it gives you that energy to put back into your professional
Oh,
work?
well, thank you. I love my family so much. They're just extraordinary. My kids, I have the best partner ever. And I think it is so helpful that he's in healthcare. And he's in academia. So he's a program director for the Department of Neurology. And so, he's having to deal with more like residents and all this stuff as we're talking about team members. So, a lot of times when we come home, though, we just don't even want to talk about it, right? You just want to just have some peace and quiet and just escape from it. But at the same time, he totally is there and understands when I've had just a bad day. But our kids, I hope that I could say that what they've learned from us is to do whatever they do with heart and passion, and then success will follow. We've taught them to be curious and to ask questions, and to be respectful. And I have learned, oh, we learn so much from our kids. Now, it's funny that I'm doing this whole nonprofit trying to usher in a whole generation into dentistry, but nobody wants to go into dentistry. So I don't know if I scared them away. But they're doing amazing things. I have a third year, Michaela. She's at UC Davis and she's on the pre-vet track. She's
Oh, okay.
wants to do aquatic veterinary medicine, and she started doing research her first year. And I love it. She was so excited. There was a STEM diversity in STEM conference, and she's already, getting geared up to apply for vet school. And then I do have twins, girl boy twins, Nicholas and Hayden. And, Hayden has had the opportunity to help volunteer at one of the Diversified Dentistry Youth Summits. And then she's also participated in one. So I'm still trying to plant that seed because she was someone's
We'll
other
see.
STEM girl. So we'll see. We'll see. I want
Yeah.
her to follow her heart, but I was like, you'd be a great dentist. And then Nicholas, my son, he is so into, and let me tell you, during this election season, this campaigning, he was the person I went to for all information. He's so civically engaged, part of the Arizona Governor's Youth Council, doing policy change for sustainability in the school district, and really did follow it and was trying to educate others. He was canvassing for the election, and he's 17. And Hayden too is so excited as far as being at the rallies. I mean, taking time to be there and just seeing the hope in their eyes. It just filled my heart with pride and joy. And yes, they're a little disheartened with what has happened, but I have to tell them that we just have to continue to do our work in our part of the world, right? Making it a better place for our communities, and just taking care of themselves and their spirit and their energy, and keep doing well in school. And but the most important thing, keep doing what they love. And we our love, I had said before, we have high expectations of them, but our love is not conditioned on those expectations being reached. So as long as they're thriving and healthy and happy, then our job, we have accomplished what we had set out to do as parents.
Yes, well, it sounds like you guys are doing an amazing job. I mean, these kids are, civically involved. And I think what's important is that we take advantage of our access, whether we're in these
Hmm.
professions or we have friends, classmates, family members who are in other, professional organizations, medicine,
Hmm.
dentistry, law, vet. We have to be politics. We have to keep, our feet
Yeah.
our toes down in all of these different
Yeah.
silos. It's really important.
It
Wow.
is.
Well,
Yeah, thanks. And when you say that, it made me think of, it truly does take a village. And in Tucson, Arizona, very small Black population. And for us, that's why it was so important for us to get involved in Jack and Jill of America, for them to be with their peers, for them to have a safe place, for them to learn more about their culture and give back, and the importance of philanthropic giving. And it has really nurtured them, and to see them thrive as leaders, it's just going to make the future brighter for everybody.
It's so important. It's so great that you're in, that you're involved. And I haven't had a chance to meet you in person, but I feel so close to you. Your work like shines through, and, you know, I'm not too far behind you. I was class of 2007, but,
Uh-huh.
you know, I, I, I know that it is easier for me because of you. And
Oh,
I think about, seriously, all the resistance, and I look at how passionate you are and continue to be despite challenges and setbacks. And I really want our listeners to understand that the journey, it's not a straight path. It's going
oh,
to have
right.
dips. And yet there are going to be moments when you feel grief and you want to just say, what's the point? You want to give up.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but you have to look forward. And as my father used to say, my dad passed away 5 years ago, but he used to say, like,
Mm.
it's cyclic, especially America. Politics, things are cyclic, but you have to
Yes.
continue to try to move that, swing that pendulum along.
We do. Oh,
So,
well, I know he was so proud of you, and you're making such a huge path for others just being here. And we're going to have to fix that problem by seeing each other in person very soon. I'm just so
yes,
grateful
yes.
for all you're doing. And thank you for allowing me this platform to share more about the work we're doing in diversity and dentistry mentorships as well.
Oh, it's such a pleasure, Dr. Hishaw. You know what? Before you go, we're going to
Mhm.
end this with what I'm calling our lightning round. Just a few questions
Okay.
to,
I like
loosen
lightning
you up
round. Let's
so
do
people can
it.
get to know you a little better.
Okay, okay, okay.
All
Sounds
right.
great.
Number one, what's your favorite cuisine?
Well, there's a Persian dish that I love. And so you have to find a Persian restaurant and ask for the gourmet sabzi. It's a stew, it's one of their greens, vegetables, and with lime and lamb meat and red beans and rice. It's so
Oh,
good.
that sounds delicious. I
It's
love
so
Persian
delicious.
food.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Okay.
Now,
Gourmet sabzi.
yeah. All right. I'm gonna look for that. Okay. I've read that you and your family are Star Wars fans. Is that correct? What is
That is
your
true.
well? What is your favorite film?
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, if I was in the other Lego room, you see a whole bunch of Millennium Falcons, Lego, and all sorts of stuff behind me. But the classic, the Star Wars, and that was one I remembered because it was in the 70s when it came out, and my father took me to Star Wars. So that's another one that just has a special place in my heart. And it's
Oh
funny, I
wow.
always make jokes too that my husband Alex married me because my name is Layla. So I'm like
Oh, that's
pretty close to
perfect.
Princess Leia.
I didn't even think about that. Look at
Yes,
that.
yeah. So
Oh,
I have dressed up as Princess Leia when I was in grade school, and then in dental school while we were dating. Yeah, I
I
think
see it.
probably one
That's
more time.
so.
I think it 3 times.
Well, it doesn't get old. I mean, it's a
No, it
classic. Yeah.
doesn't.
Wow. Okay, so as a woman, what do you think is the best age?
Ooh, well, I think the 40s, although 40 is when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, um, it was a gift. And also, I was the strongest I had ever been. I think at 20s, still getting started, 30s, it was kind of building up some stability in the practice, I would say. But 40, I just felt like I was coming into my own. There was a little bit more of an ease in my life, and I was working out more. I was really strong. I now know God made me make that shift into getting healthy because I needed to be strong to recover from my surgery. So 40 and fabulous, but I have
Yes, you
30 more.
are.
So now I got to say 50 and 51 and fabulous.
It-
51 and
you're gonna
fabulous.
have
I
an
don't
even
know.
better decade. You are blessed, seriously.
Amen.
What
Yeah.
what's your favorite season?
Mm. Well, I love summer. I do love summer. Um, Not in Arizona so much summer, but it's beautiful. Again, I think I'm just so nostalgic, I guess. Growing up in my childhood summers, being outside, playing in the water hose, having the popsicles, going to the amusement parks. I love summer.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, I know you are in a very popular Greek organization, but what
Oh,
is your favorite Greek letter?
oh, well, Alpha for Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. The
Like
first and the
one.
finest.
No, that's wonderful. Okay, so as a pediatric dentist, as a mother, what do you think is the toughest age for moms when the kids
Mhm.
are toddlers or teens?
I hope my daughter doesn't get mad for me for saying this, but yesterday she had her second car accident. I
You
know.
okay?
Thank God everything's okay.
Okay.
But there, we would say as teens and they got 16, I was like, oh, I'm going to have all this freedom. I don't have to be the Uber, picking them up from school, getting them to the activity. I could actually finish some charts so I'm not rushing out. Oh, but it has been a whole nother stress with them driving and twins at that. Um,
Okay.
there is a lot of stress as teens, and the expenses just get higher with cars and insurance and um, it's just they're good kids, but things just happen. But I think in each kind of season there are challenges in each one. As a young mom, just figuring it out is hard. So for the non-dental listeners, the Cavity Free Kids book is to help mothers raise kids, and throughout their journey, from childhood, from pregnancy actually all the way till their teenage years. So look for those guys, look for mentors, look for resources to help you in those young years. But as they get older, that's a challenge.
Yes. They're all wonder years, right? I feel
But yes,
my son,
oh, that's why they call them Wonder Years.
yeah, my son's approaching the teens, and I can feel that energy changing.
Oh
So I'm
yeah,
gonna
yeah, yeah.
follow.
The
I'll be following
hormones
your
and yeah,
guidance.
I love
Okay.
that.
What about sports trauma? Name the sport that you think causes the most dental trauma.
Yeah, the most trauma that I see is usually just from the bike, riding their bikes, falling off of their bikes and skateboards, and also just roughhousing in the house. But I would say the sport, soccer has been pretty prominent, and we don't think about that too, especially we don't women's soccer, male soccer, but concussion as well, because the repeated um, hitting the ball with the head over time, they actually have a higher count of concussions, proportionally to the number of athletes in the sport. So sports scars are important not only to protect the teeth from fracture, but it gives cushion within the TMJ, the temporal mandibular joint, our jaw joint, to cushion the shock of, if you get butted in the chin, then it hits up into, the angle there. So sports scars are important to prevent concussions.
Wow, this is great.
Mhm.
You're dropping so many gems. I want everybody to hear that because, we people overlook the importance of sports guards and organized sports.
And you need a guard that fits.
Mm.
So when you see like Steve Curry
Custom.
like chewing his
Oh,
sports
I
guard,
know.
I was like, ah. So they're not that expensive. If you talk to your dentist about making a custom sports
Hmm.
guard, because then it will fit. If it fits, the kids are more likely to wear them. There are some good. I've seen some over the counter sports guards that worked for other families, but you can pick your color and all sorts of fun stuff if you get a custom made one. Talk to your dental provider.
Yes, talk to your dental provider. Perfect. Oh, well, we're going to finish with something dental. And it reminds us about Dr. White's Bright White's toothpaste. When is your smile the brightest?
Oh, my smiles are brightest when I come home and when I'm with my family, hands down.
Oh,
Um, they just, no matter how tough the day has been or what has come my way, I look forward to coming home and just being with each other. It doesn't have to be doing much of anything, but just sitting together, and that brings me the brightest smile.
oh, that's so sweet. I see it. I see it in your smile. Well, I'm
Aw,
so
thanks.
glad that we've had this conversation. I feel like I've gotten to know you a little better.
Me too.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your journey. Your past experiences. your family's background, especially, and the importance of sports cards.
Yes, absolutely. Anytime. This has been such a pleasure. Yes, I feel like we go way back. And just chatting with a girlfriend. Keep shining your light. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm so proud of you. And you're influencing
Thank
so
you.
many others to follow in your path.
Oh, thank you
Yes.
so
Find a
much.
mentor, everybody. Find a mentor.
Yes, mentors, just ask us, reach out, find
Mhm.
DM people on Instagram. Mentorship is so important. And if we know
Mhm.
someone that can help, we want to provide that access. All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
take care, everyone.